Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and it's Debsy, and the place to be, it's Debsy. That's me, boop, Debsy. Hey guys, and happy Sunday. It is early. It's not super early, but I mean, it's earlier than I would typically put up videos. So it is a beautiful day here in Western Pennsylvania. I hope everybody is having a great day and a great weekend. Today is chock full of things to do. So let's get to it. So yesterday I watched a docuseries. I am going to highly recommend it. File this under Debsy Recommends because I absolutely love this. Okay, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the 4-part docuseries that came out on Friday. It is called Thank You, Good Night. It is, like I said, a 4-part docuseries about the illustrious career of the amazing band Bon Jovi. Now listen, it's on Hulu. I'm going to tell you, I fell in love with Bon Jovi in the 80s. I'm an 80s girl. I was born in 68, but I was a teenager in the 80s. And if you're talking, like, I loved all kinds of music. If you know me, then you know that my number one band then and always will be Duran Duran. However, like any red-blooded person on the face of the earth, I really got into Bon Jovi. For me, it started with Slippery When Wet. Actually, listen, my favorite Bon Jovi song is Living on a Prayer. Probably in my top 3 or top 5 is Runaway from their first album. And so when I had heard that this was coming out, I was like, let's put a pin in that and let's remember that it's coming out. And then my mom had said last week, can we watch this? It's coming out on Hulu. Do you have Hulu? Yes, I do. Can we watch it? Of course we can, because my mom loves Bon Jovi too. So we watched the first part on Friday. We watched the next 3 parts yesterday. Each episode is a little over an hour, although I believe the second episode was an hour and a half. I watched it in conjunction or along with my friend Kristen, my good friend Kristen from Kristen Lee on YouTube. And because she absolutely loves Bon Jovi. She is younger than me. So she had fallen in love with Bon Jovi during a later period of their existence. Like, I started really liking them during Slippery When Wet. She came to be a big Bon Jovi fan during the release of their album Crush. So that just goes to show you, like, the longevity of this band. I'm 55, and I felt I started liking them in the beginning, but like 20 some years or however long after that, my good friend, comes to really appreciate and love the band during another time. And it's crazy because it's not like I started liking them at a time when they were really good and she started liking them in their decline. It's not the case, because this band has never declined. Like, the quality has always been there. So what's Thank You, Good Night about? Thank You, Good Night takes a look at their past, how they got together and the trials and tribulations they had gone through to become the band they are, but it also takes a look at current. They go back and forth between 2022 and the past. And in 2022, what they're looking at is, it's 2022, the band is going to be celebrating 39 years together. So Jon Bon Jovi wants to get the remaining members together, and he wants to take the show takes the show on the road for like 15 stops, I think. And he's dealing with the fact that his voice is not what it was in the past. They have a doctor talking about it, and the doctor had said that whenever you get older, as you get older, your throat is supposed to close like definitively. Like, it's supposed to be not a hard close, but it's supposed to close together, like hard. It's supposed to be a definitive close. As you get older, it's more of a soft close. I know somebody who had gone to see Bon Jovi a few years ago, and he had said that his voice was not there. So he goes and he's talking about getting the surgery because John Bon Jovi says that he doesn't want to be like Elvis. Like Elvis had, at the end, he still had a great voice, but Elvis at the end, he was on all these drugs, and he was overweight. He wasn't the same Elvis that he was. John Bon Jovi is like, listen, the doctor was like, I can give you 100% of 80%. Is that good enough for you? He's like, no, because I understand that. He builds up this legacy, and he doesn't want to let the fans down. He doesn't want to let his bandmates down. He doesn't want to let himself down. I get that. Like, there's nothing sadder than when you see maybe like a star athlete who was hanging on for too long, and then they go out and their last game is just pathetic, and the last thing that people remember is this pathetic display rather than everything else that was great before it. So he is really trying his hardest to like do everything he can to hold on to it. And then when you go back and you look in the past, and they were talking about how, as with most rock and roll groups, and a lot of musicians, when they get big and the fame comes, well, then so does the drugs, so's the alcohol. Everybody in the band did drugs, except for I'm gonna say JBJ instead. Except for JBJ, he didn't. He was like, I don't like drugs. Something had happened in the past with maybe family or friends or something. They didn't elaborate on it, but he said he doesn't like them. He will not do them. Plus, he's the lead singer. He doesn't want it to affect his voice. I totally respect that. Mad respect for that. So he is really like fighting this and trying to do everything that he can to save his voice. And I'm going to tell you, there were parts in this that really were kind of heartbreaking because he got this surgery and he's singing for the first time in a little while, and it wasn't there. And you could tell that he was just heartbroken about it. It was so sad. But honestly, I read reviews where people were like, I wish they wouldn't have put this stuff in because I like to remember like how it was. But the thing that I like about John Bon Jovi, one of the things that I love about John Bon Jovi is that he's aging. He's not going to deny that he's aging. You see these women and these women in Hollywood, and they do everything that they can to make it look like they're not aging, but you age. That's just what happens. I like that John Bon Jovi, he has his gray hair, and he's showing all of this. And that, to me, shows the fight in him. Like, he, from the start of his career to now, he has never taken the easy way, and he's always worked. I mean, that's how he was raised. He was raised in New Jersey. He was raised to work hard. They weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and that's just it. And that's what I liked. I loved seeing that about him. I'm gonna tell you, this docuseries solidified the fact that I don't think John Bon Jovi is just like a great front man. He is a great front man, and he's not just a great musician who you can tell he really totally cares about his craft, because he says it. He says, listen, it's not about success. It's not about the money that I make. It's about the craft. He truly loves his craft. So it shows. And he's just a good person. Like, he's just a genuine good person who's like, instead of saying what somebody should do, he goes out and he does it. I loved seeing that. I loved seeing a look behind the scenes with him and his wife. That's another reason why I love John Bon Jovi, because he had started dating his future wife, Dorothea in 1980. They got married. They're still married. And they're just like a normal, everyday couple. I love that. I love his wife and I love them together. But I really did love seeing them take you back to where it all started. Just because for me, it was like such a sense of nostalgia. I was a teenager in the 80s. The 80s were just the funnest. I know it's not a word, but the funnest decade of all time. But some of the things that they showed, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Like Alec John Such, their original bassist, who unfortunately, sadly had passed away like right after they were inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was actually, it got so bad for him with his drug addiction that they had to actually like tape the chords. Like they had to write his chords out because he was forgetting them. But he was actually just the face that people would see at concerts and in the media. But then there was another guy, I think his first name was Hugh. I cannot remember his last name, who was actually the guy who played all of the parts. And this is the guy who, when he had passed, they were like, well, let's bring you in because he's always been there behind the scenes anyways. Also, when they were writing, so they had the first album that was successful. They had their second album, which I believe was called 7800 Fahrenheit. That did not go over well. So the heat was on for the third album. So they're writing songs. They're writing Wanted Dead or Alive. They're writing songs, and then he writes Living on a Prayer. And John Bon Jovi didn't think a lot of it. Like he was like, oh well. Thankfully, Richie Sambora was like, what are you doing? That is the best song that we have written so far. So keep that. And I'm glad they did because that's my favorite song. I prefer, if we're talking about the versions, because there's like the original version and then there's like the acoustic. All versions are good, but for me, it's the original. I have to have the original one. So I thought that was interesting. Now, they did talk about Richie Sambora leaving. He had said, here's the thing. I went in on John Bon Jovi's side anyways, but he had said, well, he had gone into rehab once already. And then it was 2013. He was having some personal issues. So he had, and before that, he had said that he told the cameras that their sound was getting stale. So he had said that. And then he had asked John Bon Jovi, he said, listen, because the band was going to start touring, he said, can I show up, maybe take a day to myself and show up the next day, the day of the concert? I'll fly out myself. And John Bon Jovi said, sure, absolutely. So next day comes, they're at the concert, there's no Richie Sambora. They're getting ready to go on stage. I mean, they had no idea. And then Richie Sambora comes on and says, well, they knew why. I didn't like that. I know, I don't think anything crazy went on. Maybe it was just that they knew that I was struggling with my sobriety, but I thought that was shitty that they're like expecting you to be there. And here you are, everything is in the trunk of your limo and the plane's ready to take off and you're nowhere to be found. I just hated that. I didn't like that at all. And then John Bon Jovi had said, this is why you always have we always had a second guitarist ready, because it wasn't when this was going to happen. If it was going to happen, it was when. So I thought that was real shitty. And even Richie Sambora had said, listen, I apologize. I don't like how I handled that, which, right, you should apologize. But I really enjoyed it. If you love Bon Jovi, absolutely watch it. I'm gonna tell you, even if you're not a huge Bon Jovi fan, it's interesting if you like music. I'll always, and in conjunction with that, if you are a fan of music, because they do show Bon Jovi being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Howard Stern actually did their speech, and if you have a chance, watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony. This year I think it was on ABC. Other years I had watched it on Max, on HBO Max. But if you like music, it's just 1,000 out of 10 to watch. But getting back to this, yeah, if you love Bon Jovi, watch it. Even if you just like Bon Jovi, or if you like music, watch it. It's on Hulu. It is 4 parts. I would definitely, absolutely, 100% recommend it. So there we go. Let me know in the comments if you're a Bon Jovi fan. If you are, what's your favorite song? And listen, and have you seen them in concert? I've seen them in concert. Here's the thing. Back in the day, in the 80s, on their Slippery When Wet tour, they were in Pittsburgh 3 times. They did 3 stops. I went to the third concert. I was on the floor, and when I say I was on the floor, I was near the back of the floor. So if you're on the back and the floor, you're not going to see a ton. You have to look at the screens. So we went in, and I was standing right by. My seat was like right by this little platform, and I was like, "What is this?" Okay, great concert. Living on a Prayer comes on. And Bon Jovi and JBJ flies through the air, lands right here. I was like, oh my God. Listen, I know he saw me. And the reason why I know he saw me wasn't because of my loveliness. It was because I was behind this woman who had cleavage for months in front of me. Like, so here's this woman with huge cans, and I'm like, oh. It was a great concert. Listen, if you lived in Western Pennsylvania, if you lived in Western Pennsylvania in the 80s, when Bon Jovi came to Pittsburgh 3 times on Slippery When Wet tour, and you didn't go, what were you doing with your life? That's all I'm saying. That's it. So yeah. So let me know in the comments. Have you ever seen Bon Jovi? What's your favorite Bon Jovi, maybe even album, and your favorite Bon Jovi song? And with that being said, if nobody told you yet today, I love you, and you're loved, seen, and heard. Please make sure that you put love, kindness, compassion, acceptance, hope, positivity, and understanding out there so it can come back at you. Please take care of one another. And 2 things I always say. Number 1, please be aware of your surroundings. Number 2, please stay safe. And as JBJ would say, have a nice day. Bye, guys. Bye, guys.